My name is Helena, and I always believed that life had a rhythm I could follow. But that rhythm shattered the moment I realized that people you trust the most can break you in ways you never imagine. I grew up thinking that love was simple: trust, care, and devotion. But life quickly taught me otherwise. I gave my heart freely, not realizing that not everyone who smiles at you carries honesty behind their eyes. There was someone I loved, someone I thought understood me completely, but love turned out to be a delicate thread, and it snapped under the weight of betrayal. The first night I discovered the truth, I could not breathe. Every laugh we shared, every secret we whispered, suddenly felt like a lie. I walked through my empty apartment, clutching the pillow as if it could absorb the pain, but the emptiness remained, pressing against my chest like a stone. Days passed, yet time did not heal. Each morning I woke with the same ache. Each night I fell asleep hoping dreams would carry me somewhere safe, somewhere untouched by the cruelty of truth. Friends tried to comfort me, but their words were hollow against the storm raging inside me. I found myself questioning everything. Did I misread the signs? Did I trust too quickly? Was it my fault that love betrayed me? The answers eluded me, leaving only a suffocating cloud of doubt and grief. I withdrew from the world. I stopped attending gatherings, stopped answering messages, stopped pretending that life had not changed completely. The world became a blur of colors and sounds, none of which could pierce the armor of sorrow I had wrapped around my heart. But pain, as relentless as it was, forced me to confront myself. I began to write not for anyone else, but for myself. My journal became my sanctuary. Every word I poured onto the page carried a piece of my soul, a fragment of the heartbreak I could not speak aloud. Writing allowed me to breathe, to process, and to survive. Music became my companion. I listened to melodies that echoed my feelings, songs that wept with me, sang with me, and understood the depth of my despair. Every note became a lifeline, connecting me to the world I had turned my back on. Even in the darkness, subtle lessons emerged. I realized that heartbreak does not define us, it challenges us. It forces us to look within, to uncover hidden strengths, and to discover resilience we never knew existed. The love I lost taught me about trust, courage, and the fragile power of the human heart. Through months of solitude, reflection, and emotional turbulence, I began to notice small shifts. The first laugh I forced, then felt genuine. The first step outside my apartment without dread. The first sunrise that made me pause and appreciate life despite its cruelty. Each tiny victory reminded me that pain is temporary and healing, though slow, is possible. I also learned the importance of boundaries. I could not allow my heart to be vulnerable until I had rebuilt the foundation of trust within myself. And slowly, piece by piece, I began to reconstruct Helena, not the girl defined by betrayal, but the woman forged through grief, courage, and resilience. The journey was far from over. Each day brought new challenges, new waves of emotion, and new lessons. But one thing became clear: even in the depths of heartbreak, a heart that chooses to survive and grow is capable of unimaginable strength and beauty. After the initial shock of betrayal, I realized heartbreak is not a single moment. It is a series of fractures, some visible, some hidden deep within the soul. I am Helena, and I spent months wandering through my own mind, searching for the girl I once knew, while mourning the love that had been stolen from me. The days blurred together. I would wake, sip my coffee mechanically, and stare at the walls, each object a reminder of what I had lost. The room felt suffocating, as if the air itself carried whispers of memories I could not escape. Every photograph, every message, every trinket that once symbolized joy now felt like a dagger twisting slowly in my chest. People told me time heals all wounds. But time alone is a passive companion. Healing requires confrontation, acknowledgement, and patience. I had to stare into the eyes of my own pain, name it, and accept it without trying to bury it. Only then could I hope to mend the shattered pieces of my heart. During this period, I discovered the isolation that comes with heartbreak is both a curse and a teacher. I learned to sit with my sorrow without distraction, to hear the raw echoes of loss, and to understand the profound depth of my own emotions. I realized that I could endure the pain and emerge stronger if I faced it fully rather than running from it. I began to write letters, not to anyone else, but to the person who had hurt me and to the version of myself that existed before the betrayal. In those letters, I poured anger, sadness, confusion, and faint glimmers of hope. Writing became a mirror, reflecting the complexity of my heart, and slowly, the words began to heal what silence could not. Music remained my companion. I gravitated toward melodies that resonated with sorrow and introspection. Each note mirrored my heartbeat, each lyric echoed my longing, and through these sounds, I began to feel a connection to the world again. Even as the nights were long and the tears unrelenting, I understood that I was not alone in my pain. Others had survived similar heartbreaks and had emerged transformed. I also began to confront my own role in my suffering, not in blame, but in understanding. I questioned my choices, my trust, and my expectations. Heartbreak does not only reveal the flaws of others, it illuminates the areas within ourselves that need care, attention, and growth. I realized that self-awareness is one of the most potent tools for recovery. Slowly, I allowed small joys back into my life. A walk in the park, the scent of rain, a warm cup of tea, all became moments of healing. These small experiences reminded me that life, even when harsh, still offers beauty and moments of serenity. I discovered that gratitude, even for the simplest things, is a balm for a wounded heart. I also rebuilt connections that had frayed. Old friends, those who had stayed silently by my side, reminded me that loyalty and love can exist outside of romance. I leaned on them, laughed with them, and allowed myself to feel safe again. Through these bonds, I understood that trust, though delicate, can be nurtured when approached carefully and mindfully. The process of healing was not linear. There were nights when sorrow returned with the force of a storm, when memories haunted me and I questioned whether I would ever love again. But these moments, while painful, were necessary. They reminded me of my resilience, my capacity to endure, and the depth of my own courage. By the end of this chapter, I realized that heartbreak, while devastating, is also transformative. It forces us to look within, to confront our vulnerabilities, and to discover strength we never knew existed. My heart, though fractured, was beginning to learn the language of resilience, patience, and cautious hope. And as I sat by the window one evening, watching the first snowflakes of winter fall gently to the ground, I whispered, "Helena, you are still standing. You are still breathing. You are still capable of love, joy, and life. This heartbreak does not define you, it refines you." Heartbreak is not a single moment. It lingers, it echoes, it hides in corners where you least expect it. I am Helena, and as I moved forward, I realized that the weight of betrayal followed me like a shadow. Even as I tried to rebuild my life, Fragments of the past haunted every thought, every heartbeat, every breath. The mornings were the hardest. The silence of my apartment pressed in on me, and I found myself replaying every conversation, every gesture, every word that had once promised love and trust. How could something so pure become so cruel? How could someone who swore loyalty become the architect of my pain? I walked through the city's streets like a ghost, observing life from a distance. People laughed, kissed, and lived, seemingly oblivious to the invisible wounds I carried. Their joy felt distant, unattainable, as if happiness belonged to everyone else but me. Friends tried to reach me, but I resisted. I could not yet share the depth of my sorrow. Words felt inadequate, and even their kindness sometimes hurt because it reminded me of what I had lost. The world felt both alive and unreachable, a paradox that left me suspended between despair and the faint glimmer of hope. Writing remained my sanctuary. Each night, I poured my soul into pages that no one else would read. I wrote letters to the person who had hurt me, letters I never sent, expressing anger, grief, confusion, and faint flickers of forgiveness. The act of writing was cathartic. It allowed me to confront my pain and witness my own resilience. Music, too, became my companion. I discovered songs that mirrored my exact feelings, melodies that wept, lyrics that resonated, and rhythms that pulsed like my own heartbeat. Music held my hand when the world felt cold, and it became a lifeline in nights filled with tears and unanswered questions. Solitude taught me hard truths. I realized that I had placed too much of my identity in the hands of another, that I had allowed my self-worth to be defined by someone else's affection. This revelation was painful but necessary. I began to understand that my value is inherent, independent of who loves or betrays me. In these moments, I also learned to confront fear. The fear of loving again, of trusting, of exposing my heart. Each day, I took small steps, smiling at strangers, speaking to acquaintances, accepting invitations, and these tiny acts became exercises in courage. Slowly, I began to feel that the world, though capable of cruelty, was also capable of kindness, empathy, and beauty. I reflected on my own mistakes, not to blame myself, but to understand and learn. I saw where I had trusted too quickly, where I had ignored warning signs, and where my own expectations had been unrealistic. These insights were not burdens, they were tools, preparing me for the future, teaching me to navigate relationships with wisdom and self-respect. Through the winter months, I began to rediscover joy in solitude. I walked through parks covered in frost, relishing the quiet. I drank hot tea by the window, watching snowfall and feeling a strange sense of peace amidst the lingering sorrow. The small moments of beauty reminded me that life is vast, unpredictable, and full of wonder, even when grief lingers. By the end of this chapter, I realized that loneliness is not weakness. It is a space of transformation, reflection, and empowerment. My heart, though still carrying the scars of betrayal, was beginning to regain strength. I was learning to exist fully with my pain, to honor it without letting it control me, and to embrace the possibility of love and joy once more. And as I closed my journal one cold evening, staring at the pale winter moon, I whispered, "Helena, you are still here. You have survived. You have grown. The shadows of loneliness do not define you. They reveal your strength." Months had passed since the betrayal, and I, Helena, had learned to navigate a world tinted with grief yet illuminated by faint sparks of hope. Heartbreak had left me raw, but slowly, It had taught me that even amidst devastation, the human heart has an innate capacity to heal. The first small signs of recovery appeared in subtle ways. A morning sunlight spilling across my bedroom floor. A stranger's smile in a crowded street. The scent of rain on warm pavement. These seemingly ordinary moments stirred something long forgotten within me, a flicker of curiosity, a gentle tug of optimism. I began to step outside deliberately, not to seek love or validation, but to reclaim the life I had retreated from. Cafes, art galleries, parks, spaces where I could observe, breathe, and exist without pressure became my classrooms in resilience. In observing life move forward around me, I realized that even in the absence of someone's affection, the world continues, offering new possibilities. My creative pursuits deepened. Painting became more than a hobby. It became a language for the emotions I could not otherwise articulate. Each brushstroke was both confession and liberation. I wrote, not for an audience, but to understand myself, chronicling every pang of sorrow, every glimmer of hope. Music remained my companion, its melodies resonating with the silent chambers of my heart. In this journey, I also encountered kindness. A mentor in art class who encouraged me to channel pain into creativity. A new friend whose laughter was warm and unassuming, reminding me that connection need not be destructive. Even fleeting encounters with strangers, genuine smiles, small gestures of empathy became anchors, teaching me to trust cautiously but not close my heart entirely. The first stirrings of romantic hope came quietly. Not a rush of passion, but a gentle, patient presence. Someone who saw me, not merely as a girl wounded by love, but as a person with depth, intellect, and resilience. This new connection reminded me that love could exist without manipulation or betrayal. It could be a nurturing force, not a weapon. Yet I moved carefully. I was still learning to differentiate between love and infatuation, trust and dependency. My past heartbreak had taught me that boundaries are sacred. I could give love fully, but only when it aligned with respect, empathy, and understanding. My caution was not fear, it was wisdom forged in the fires of loss. Reflection became an essential part of daily life. Revisiting old memories, acknowledging my emotions, and expressing gratitude for the lessons learned allowed me to reclaim the narrative of my own life. I realized that heartbreak, while painful, is a teacher. It shows us our values, our capacity to endure, and our ability to emerge stronger. The first signs of joy returned. Laughter emerged, hesitant at first, then genuine. Curiosity for life sparked in my eyes again. Even mundane experiences, watching a sunset, tasting a new dish, discovering a song that resonates, began to feel rich with meaning. Each moment reminded me that life, even after devastation, holds beauty and possibility. Through solitude and careful reconnection with the world, I learned to celebrate my independence. My heart, though scarred, was capable of growth, love, and joy. I discovered that strength does not come from avoiding pain, but from facing it and allowing it to transform you. By the end of this chapter, I whispered to myself as I watched the horizon glow with sunset hues. Helena, this is your life. It is fragile, it is beautiful, and it is yours to embrace fully. The heartbreak has shaped you, but it does not define you. Your heart is resilient, and hope is yours to reclaim. Months of solitude and reflection had begun to pay off. I am Helena, and I could feel the stirrings of a new life emerging from the ruins of my past heartbreak. The girl who had once trembled under betrayal was slowly learning the language of resilience, courage, and self-love. The first step toward reclaiming myself came through small victories. I began waking each day with purpose, simple intentions like completing my writing, taking long walks, or reaching out to friends who had proven their loyalty. Each action, no matter how minor, was a declaration. I was not broken beyond repair. Creativity flourished. My journals, once filled with pain, now contained sketches, poetry, and reflections that celebrated not only my survival, but my growth. Art became a mirror to my evolving soul, revealing a side of Helena that heartbreak had hidden but never destroyed. Friendship deepened into trust. People who had stood by me quietly during my dark nights became pillars I could lean on without fear of judgment. Their presence reminded me that connection is not inherently dangerous. It is a source of warmth, encouragement, and stability. Slowly, I learned to rely on these bonds without sacrificing my independence. Love approached not as an urgent need, but as a possibility, a gentle whisper promising understanding rather than betrayal. I met someone who saw me fully, my scars, my laughter, my resilience. They did not expect me to be perfect. They only offered acceptance and respect. It was humbling, and it awakened in me the first true glimmers of romantic hope. But I moved cautiously. The past had taught me the importance of boundaries, self-respect, and discernment. I could feel love again, yet with wisdom. I understood the difference between attraction and emotional security, between infatuation and genuine connection. My heart could feel fully, but it would not rush blindly. Through all of this, I discovered a profound truth. Heartbreak does not close the heart, it strengthens it. Every tear shed, every sleepless night endured, and every moment of despair had forged resilience, empathy, and a capacity for deeper love than I had ever imagined. Daily rituals became my anchor. I woke early to watch the sunrise, letting its golden light seep into my soul. I walked through streets familiar and new, observing life's rhythm with renewed appreciation. Music continued to accompany me, each melody a testament to survival and hope. I also began to embrace risk, emotional, professional, and personal. I tried new experiences, spoke honestly about my feelings, and allowed myself to be vulnerable in measured ways. Each step was an assertion that I would not be defined by fear or by past pain. By the middle of this chapter, I felt the first true sense of empowerment. I had endured the worst that heartbreak could offer and emerged intact. My identity was no longer tethered to someone else's affection. It was firmly rooted within myself. Helena, though scarred, was whole, capable, and alive. The journey was far from over, but the path now glowed with possibility. Each day was an invitation to embrace life fully, to explore new relationships, to pursue passions unapologetically, and to honor my own needs and desires. Heartbreak had taught me that the heart is a resilient organ, capable of repair, growth, and extraordinary depth. As night fell, I sat by my window and whispered into the quiet. Helena, you are rising. The ashes of your pain have nourished the roots of your strength. Love, joy, and life await you, not as rewards, but as truths you are ready to embrace. By now, I am Helena, and I understand that true healing is not linear. It is a tapestry woven from pain, reflection, resilience, and the courage to embrace life fully again. The heartbreak that once consumed me is now a teacher, guiding me towards self-awareness, strength, and the kind of love that does not demand surrender, but honors integrity. The early mornings have become sacred. I rise with the sun, letting its warmth illuminate the edges of my heart still tender from loss. I breathe deeply, acknowledging the scars without shame, knowing that each one tells a story of endurance, survival, and transformation. Daily routines anchor me. Writing, painting, long walks, and the music that resonates with my soul have transformed from coping mechanisms into celebrations of life. I no longer write only to survive. I write to honor my growth, to recognize the beauty of resilience, and to share the depth of my experience with a world that may one day need these reflections. Friendships have matured. Those who stayed through the shadows of my pain have become pillars of strength. We laugh without pretense, cry without judgment, and celebrate life with authenticity. These bonds remind me that connection is not inherently dangerous. It can nurture, heal, and illuminate the path forward. Love appears again, gently and without urgency. I meet someone who values transparency, mutual respect, and emotional honesty. Their presence does not erase the past, but it complements the person I have become. I move forward with caution, yet with openness, recognizing that the heart is resilient, capable of growth, and deserving of trust when approached mindfully. I have learned that boundaries are sacred. I no longer bend to please others at the cost of my well-being. I honor my emotions, my desires, and my limits. This self-respect has become the foundation of a heart that can love fully, without fear, and without sacrificing its integrity. Reflection continues to guide me. I revisit the chapters of my life, not to dwell in sorrow, but to recognize the patterns, understand my responses, and acknowledge the strength that emerged from adversity. Every tear shed, every sleepless night endured, and every confrontation with pain has forged an inner resilience that is unshakable. Through solitude and introspection, I have discovered joy in unexpected places: the first bloom of spring, the laughter of children in the park, the quiet hum of life passing by. These moments, small but profound, remind me that life is a series of gifts, even after heartbreak. Empowerment is no longer a concept, it is a lived reality. I make choices that honor my growth, seek experiences that enrich my spirit, and pursue passions that awaken my soul. Heartbreak has transformed me, revealing the depth of my courage, the breadth of my empathy, and the capacity of my heart to recover and flourish. As the sun sets on another day, I stand by my window, the horizon painted with shades of gold and crimson. I whisper softly with conviction, "Helena, you have survived, you have grown, and you have learned that heartbreak is not an ending, but a transformation. Your heart is unbreakable, your spirit resilient, and your capacity for love limitless." In that quiet moment, I feel complete, not because life is without pain, but because I have learned to face it, embrace it, and transcend it. The girl who once trembled in fear of love now stands empowered, ready to live fully, to love wisely, and to honor the journey that shaped her. Heartbreak has been my crucible, and from it, I have emerged stronger, wiser, and infinitely capable of joy, connection, and love. I am Helena, and this is the chapter where the echoes of heartbreak transform into harmony, where sorrow turns into wisdom, and where the fragments of a broken heart come together to form strength, beauty, and resilience. The journey had been long. I had cried rivers, laughed cautiously, and walked through the shadows of betrayal. But every step, every tear, every night spent alone had shaped me into someone unrecognizable to the Helena who had once trembled at love. I learned that heartbreak is not a failure, it is a teacher. It strips you bare, forces you to confront your fears, and guides you to rebuild with intention. I discovered my boundaries, my self-worth, and my capacity for deep, authentic love. In the early mornings, I stood by the balcony, watching the sun paint the sky with hues of fire and gold. I breathed deeply, feeling the rhythm of life pulse through me. The pain that had once ruled me was now a memory, a quiet teacher reminding me of resilience. Love appeared again, not as urgency, but as a possibility. Someone who saw my scars, my laughter, my resilience, and accepted all of it. This love did not erase the past, it complemented my growth. I could give freely now, but wisely, with awareness and self-respect. Friendship, too, had become sacred. Those who had stayed by my side during dark times were no longer just companions, they were anchors. I leaned on them, laughed with them, and allowed myself to feel joy without guilt. I embraced my passions with renewed vigor. Writing, painting, music, these were not merely hobbies, but vessels of healing, creativity, and self-expression. Every word, every brushstroke, every melody reminded me of the journey I had survived and the power I had reclaimed. Reflection became my guide. I revisited my past not to dwell, but to honor my growth. I acknowledged the moments of weakness, the tears shed, and the lessons learned. Each memory, painful or joyful, was a thread in the tapestry of who I had become. I realized that the heart is both fragile and infinitely resilient. It can break, shatter, and bleed, yet it can also heal, grow, and open wider than before. My heart, once defined by betrayal, was now defined by courage, wisdom, and an unshakable capacity for love. As night fell, I whispered to myself, "Helena, you have endured, you have learned, and you have grown. Heartbreak shaped you, but it does not define you. Your heart is whole, your spirit unbreakable, and your future is yours to embrace fully." In that moment, I felt complete, not because life was perfect, but because I had survived, transformed, and discovered the strength within me. My heart had been reclaimed, not untouched, but perfected through experience, resilience, and self-love. Life continued, full of uncertainty and beauty. I knew challenges would come, but now I was ready. I could laugh, love, create, and live fully without fear. The girl who once trembled at love now stood empowered, alive, and unafraid. Heartbreak had been my crucible, and from it, I had emerged whole, stronger, wiser, ready to embrace life, love, and joy with a heart unafraid to feel.